Hey folks, my name is Yusuf. I'm a senior developer with OptimizeIS. We are the two-time Airtable Partner of the Year. Today I'm going to show you something that's super quick, but also super powerful. How to generate custom branded email reports that are generated from Airtable, and they can look just like this. So you can see over here, this report in particular, we use a sales use case. Basically, for each employee, we can see data separated week over week too, with the change showing at the bottom, the variance. Yeah. So yeah, I'll speak a little bit more about the problem. So the problem in this case, what we've seen is typically executive teams typically are not in Airtable often day to day, whereas it's more on the manager and employee level that are using Airtable day to day, but we still want to give leadership those reports of what's going on, what's happening in the business, or maybe even external investors, etc. So this was a clean way that we discovered that makes that possible. And these reports are also very mobile friendly, so you can see where to right click and inspect from a mobile view. You can see over here that it's still used very well on the mobile. Okay, now let's jump into how we actually made these. So over here in my Airtable base, this is meant for keeping track of opportunities, like a CRM. So you can see over here we have our various employees or sales representatives and different metrics based off the opportunities. So number of deals that they closed, revenue closed this week, total pipeline value, new opportunities closed, etc. And if I were to go into the opportunities table, we're keeping track of various different opportunities, their names, who's the assigned employee or sales rep, what stage it's in, whether it's been closed one, the date it was closed, etc. Now the goal is to week over week be able to show these changes. Traditionally in Airtable, that would require a bunch of different junction tables, and those get messy and complicated quickly. So we wanted a clean way to manage that. So our solution was a third table called weekly summary, basically sales representative weekly summary. In here, it summarizes what the sales rep did every week through an automation. Every week, it would gather all the data from the employees and opportunities, and then create it here as a single record. So you can see over here, we have a record for July 6th, right? For this individual employee, and here's the summarization of all their data we took directly from the employees table. And if I were to go to all of them over here, you can see the same thing on June 29th for that same employee. There's different metrics, right? So that's how this works. Let me pull up the automation right now. So this is the automation that generates those records. You can see every week at Sunday at a specific time. You can set this whatever day and time you want to set it to. It grabs all the records from our employees table, right? And then it just creates all those individual line items, right? So it grabs the week, the employee, and this is a very no-code solution so far. And I can show you an example of this being generated right now. So if I were to go to our data, and I can delete everything for July 6th, I can now go ahead and just regenerate that data for that week. I'll do it manually just to show. Okay, awesome. Now that's been done, you can see it generated the new employees again right over here. So now let me show you how this email is created. And it does use some code, but it's templatized. It's a full template that's very easy for you to update. So in this send reporting email automation right here, we click on this create HTML. And over here, everything within this user configuration section right here is everything that you can change. So you can see over here, the table name is set to the table name that we had over before, sales representative weekly summary. So that would be right over here, this table. We can see that there are two views used, this week and last week. So that's done right over here, this week and last week. And then to go back, the name field ID is the name field. That's right over here, the name field. Here, this report title, report subtitle, and these fields will make more sense after we generate the report. So I'll go ahead and generate the report and show what these do. Okay, now that our report's been generated, we can see over here, weekly sales performance summary. That ties into this over here, right here. The report title, weekly sales performance summary. Report subtitle, this compares each rep's performance between this week and last week. That's configured right over here. And then the actual grouping is already automatically done for you. So I guess the big question would be, how do you decide what fields appear over here and how do you want them formatted, etc.? That's from right over here, the summary fields. So you can see this field, deals closed this week. That correlates to this field over here, deals closed this week. And then if we were to show revenue closed this week, that ties into this field over here, etc. And you can manage the actual label you want it to appear as. So you can see, for example, deals closed this week doesn't show up as deals closed this week. It's named just deals closed, right? And the same thing, we can choose if we want to be a number or a currency. Just like this is now a number, this is a currency over here. If I set this to percentage, for example, this would change to percent. So you can see all of that right over here. Now, the big reason for this is how you can highlight the difference between this week and last week and show the change, right? And you can imagine you can configure this to be this month and last month, or this quarter and last quarter, whatever you really want to set it to be. And the way that's managed is in the tables over here. We have two views, one for this week and one for last week. And it's really just a filter where we just check if this week is checked, which is a field. That's right over here. And this formula is quite intuitive. It's just looking at what the actual day is. So this week field over here, it's looking at this week field right here. It converts it to a number and compares it to what it is today. So if today's week is equal to the actual week set in the record, then that means that it's this week. And last week is configured in a very similar manner. But all it does is just, it subtracts 1 from this week, so it compares it to the last week record. If you have any questions on that, feel free to message in the comments. Basically, once this script, what it does is it creates the actual HTML. Once that's been done, it sends it over to make.com over here. And it's a very simple 2-step make automation where it just accepts the webhook value and it sends the actual email that you want. And that's configured right over here. So over here, if I were to open this send to make script, you can see it's also fully customizable. You just need to customize these 3. So you'd input your make.com webhook address over here, whatever it needs to be. You can set the actual email it wants to go to. I just set it to my own email, and you can choose who you want on CC. So I set test@gmail.com right over here, which you'd be able to see right over here. Everything else is already configured for you, the email subject, email recipients, email CC, etc. You just need to fire this automation, and then it'll go straight into make. Now, what you need to configure from the make side is quite intuitive. I'll just go ahead and show that to you. So you can see, first thing I did over here was just set up a webhook, which you would just choose a webhook option. And after that, I just added the send an email action right after. And let's go ahead and set this up together, actually. So I'll go ahead and create a new scenario. And then I'll set up a webhook option, custom webhook. And then you can just hit add a new webhook, whatever you want it to be. Okay, that's fine. So you got this webhook right over here. Next step, you would be send an email. So I'm just going to type an email over here. So send an email. And then you would just configure the options. So subject, you just set it to the subject that sends the webhook. Let's go ahead and actually trigger this webhook. So I'm going to copy this address, going to go back to our automation, and then update this. I'm going to hit test again. And once I've done that, when I go back into our webhook, it should be updated. And now I can pull in the actual values. So subject would be if I click over here, and then I can pull in the email subject. The content type needs to be HTML. Content would be HTML right over here. And then the to, make sure you set this to map. It can be whatever email recipients we have over here. And then same thing with CC. To click this off, go to show advanced settings. And then we can see this is the CC recipients. Set this to a map, email CC, just like that. And then we can hit save. And then now if I were to run this automation right from over here, it would trigger this. So let me just test this out, hit run once, and then actually test this. And then we should see it starts running. There we go. I just sent an email. And the time right now is 8:42 a.m. GMT time. So if I were to go to my email now, it should say 8:42. Awesome. Just pulled up my email and you can see there's a new email that came at 8:42 a.m. GMT time with the same exact metrics that we wanted. Well, thank you so much for watching. We are happy to give away this template for you to use in your own base. Just email sales@optimizis.com with a link to this video and the request for the template, and we'll give you the full Airtable base, the reporting script as well. And if you have any questions, we can also send you setup instructions too. You can also book a call via the link in the description.